Heart's delight, source of mercy, draw your servant into your arms. I leap like a deer to stand in awe before you. Your love is sweeter to me than the taste of honey. World's light, shining glory, my heart is faint for love of you. Heal it, O God. Help my heart. We're on page 636. Yetid nefesh av harachaman mishor chavdecha el ritzonecha yarutz abdecha
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Luck. It's good to see you. It's also just good to hear you. I've been thinking this week about this service and how much I miss seeing everyone. I mean, we say it every single week, but when you come off a week like this, the one thing that I look forward to the most is everyone packing into the main sanctuary or to the Martin Meyer, and the rolling of the eyes and the hugging and the jokes. And this is the kind of night where we need it, because it has been a very difficult week. So I'm going to ask everybody on here to type more than normal. I would like you to go into the chat. I want you to, as you see the different people that are on here in the service, just to send them a note, to wish them well, to check in on them. If you see people coming in that you don't know, do the same thing to them, because this is the difficulties of COVID is being separate, and this was a really difficult week. And it's really when the community wraps their arms around each other that makes it a little bit easier, and it kind of helps us find a point on the wall like we're a ballerina that gives us the stability to remember where we're actually going. If you'd like to follow along on a separate device, if you want to look at the prayers, if you can check on our website, or you can type it into Google virtual Mishkan Tefillah, and you'll be able to choose a flip book to follow along in the prayers. So I want to invite everyone to take a big, deep breath in as we think of all of the chaos from this past week. And as we move into the lighting of the candles is really that moment, which is that separation from everything that was to everything that we would like it to be. And so I'd like to invite Everett and his family to help us light the candles.
And I'm so thrilled, as we're waiting for Everett to come on, that tomorrow, in a very socially distanced and safe way, he will be becoming bar mitzvah. And we are just so excited and thrilled that you can all welcome in the Shabbat with us. Can you hear us, Everett?
Yeah.
Great. All right. So whenever you're ready, you can all light the candles and say the blessing.
Oops. It's been one of those weeks. Sorry about that.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam,
asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotah v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. And so we're going to continue now as we turn to page 20 for L'Chadodi. And it's part of that transition as we move into Shabbat that we move into that place of celebrating this newness of time, but it's also a time of slowing down, which we're going to talk about later on. Shabbat really is about slowing down and seeing the things that maybe we were not able to notice. We are on page 20.
Ya la 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 l'Chadodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela, la 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 l'Chadodi, ya la 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 ya la 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 likrat kala, la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmiyanu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'letila. L'Chadodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechol v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nisucha, sof maaseh b'machshava techila, yai lai lai, la 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 l'Chadodi, yai lai la 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 likrat kala, la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom teret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, ay lai l'Chadodi, likrat ala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, ay l'Chadodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, ay lai lai, ay lai 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 lai, L'Chadodi, likrat P'nei Shabbat nekabela. On page 24, we welcome the angels to our Shabbat with the words of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei HaMenachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei HaMenachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruchuni L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzedachem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We now move to the Baruch. If you feel comfortable, I would invite you to please rise. We are on page 27.
Hi, lai, lai, hi, lai, 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 hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, lai, hi, lai, 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 hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMivorach. Baruch Adonai HaMivorach Le'olam Mevahed. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Hi, lai, lai. Hi, lai, lai, lai. Hi, lai, 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 lai. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaolem. If you are standing, you may be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We are continuing on page 40 with Micha Mocha.
Micha Mocha Bailim Adonai, Micha Mocha Nedar Bakodesh, Nora Tehilot Oseh Feleh, Nora Tehilot ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה מרים, זה לי אנו ואמרו, אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. גיבר יעקב וגאלו בון מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
At this point in the service, we reach the time where we say the Mishaberach, the blessing for those who are in need of healing, of body and also of spirit. As a congregation, we're praying for Susan Cole, Frank Friedman, Ruth Rishin, Marilyn Lebarsky, Michael Shaw, Rusty Holden, Debbie Haas, Richard Ziniga, Jessica Ruth Chaim Galloway, Susie Riesler, Stephen Riesler, Marcia Riesler, Ivy Fine, Lorenzo Miranda, Armando Salazar, Daniel Salazar, and Lauren Knickerbocker. If there's someone else who you are praying for their healing, if you'll please share their name in the chat, and then also please reach out to them after the service and let them know that you were praying for them. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and a complete renewal of spirit. And let us all say, Amen.
Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
The cantor and I, we were speaking earlier today about Misha Berach and the idea that it really is a time to pause and think about those in our lives that we care about who are hurting in body and sometimes hurting in spirit. But then we're also talking about our own nation, is that our nation is also in that space right now of hurting in body and also hurting in spirit. And so we would like to offer a blessing for a nation which really talks about that shelter of peace coming over and enveloping us, as if this past week was an inflection point, and now we move to a place of healing.
Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Spread over us, O God, your shelter, your sukkot of shalom, of peace. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha.
We are continuing now with the Amidah. And if you'd like to follow along in the prayer book, we're on page 46 to 62. We're going to start off chanting together, and then we're going to move into some silent prayer as we finish.
Adonai sifetai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש קדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
I've been thinking a lot about what transpired this week. Thinking about that our executive branch encouraged a group acting as a militia with weapons to overtake the legislative branch, with Molotov cocktails, zip-tie handcuffs to kidnap the congresspeople. And the fact that 5 people were killed, including Brian Sicknick, the Capitol Police officer, who was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. And at first, I felt like there must be something off about my reaction. Because honestly, I wasn't surprised. But the more I read, I found that that was not an uncommon reaction. Very few people were surprised. The day was surprising. It was shocking to see what had been described for longer than what I want to talk about actually occur. And the emotions that are welling up in all of us, they're real. But for me, it took me a while to figure out what specifically was bothering me so deeply. So I did what I often do when I reach a moment in our present that I'm trying to understand, and I reach to our past, to our texts, to our traditions to see if there's a wisdom that I can glean, to make sense and have guidance for these moments. And like so many times in my life, in what seems like a coincidence, the weekly Torah portion appears as if it's written for this moment that we are in. And as I've gotten older and seen too many of these coincidences, I've come to realize that it's an inappropriate and an inaccurate word to describe the invisible lines of connection that are all around us. It's just our job to stop long enough to see them. Because that's exactly what Moses does this week in the Parsha. Moses has been running away and avoiding everything that has to do with his past, with his country of origin, of the government that disgusts him. He runs to the desert where it says he sees a bush that is burning, but not consumed. And usually that line, it's glanced over. But if we really think about it, it's quite significant, because how long does a person have to stand and observe a bush to see this? It takes slowing down and seeing something which, if you're constantly moving, you would miss. You would think it was just a bush on fire. It takes time to note fire without consumption. Finding the miraculous in the everyday is when we slow down enough to see it. And what happens when Moses does slow down and take in the moment is, in some respects, the most significant moment the world would ever know. Now, some would argue that was Sinai. That's the most significant moment, with the receiving of the Torah. And while Sinai is important, what happens this week reverberates across religions, across cultures, across societies, and across generations. Now, most times, we're taught about this moment and we try to understand the awe that Moses experienced. We try to tap into what it must have been like, or what did he hear? But Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, the founder of Reconstructionist Judaism, he does not just challenge this idea of questioning, but says that it is completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter, which can sound shocking. Because when we think of God and religion, we think that it's all about what one believes. When in Judaism, belief is not what you're judged on. It's not even what matters. Kaplan explains that one of the most powerful ideas is that our individual conception of God are not very important in and of themselves. Our theology doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you can academically explain the philosophy of what you think God is, or your philosophy of why we're even here. What does matter is that our particular understanding of God is functional for us in a meaningful way, making a difference in our relationships with ourselves, with others, with this world, with what life has placed in front of us during our finite time while we're here. And our relationship with that deeper meaning of this world, it only counts if it drives us towards action, where we are partners in the sacred task of adding light to the world. Now, Moses is the example of that. Now, I have no idea what the burning bush looks like that is not consumed. I mean, I've seen the movie The Ten Commandments countless times, but honestly, I still don't get it. But it doesn't matter that I don't get it. What matters is that Moses gets it. What matters is that it spurs Moses to action. Moses goes from running away from Egypt to running back into Egypt, to confront the Pharaoh and to demand freedom for an entire people. What matters is Moses' civil disobedience to add light to the world. And it's not just in Moses' generation that this light is added. For countless generations, people would look to the story of Moses like their own burning bush. And they would see their story and it would spur them to action. Moses was the light that lit our nation's fight against slavery. It can be heard in the spirituals in our own country, in the United States. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Being stirred within, it only matters if you do something with it. It only matters that Moses was at the burning bush because it stirred him to action. If he had taken that moment and all the energy that came with it and stayed in the desert, gazing at that bush, or setting up a meditation center around that bush, he would not matter in our narrative. What matters is that he takes the emotion and then he moves to action. And that action, that civil disobedience, it not only causes freedom in his generation, but in the generations that follow. Now, this week, it feels like, on one hand, the darkest moment in our nation's democracy, with a mob overtaking the Congress. And on the other hand, a white Jewish man and a black Christian man were elected to that exact same Congress. The emotions that this week has stirred in you, they're real and they matter. Only if you do something with them. What I realized, what was bothering me so much, was the lack of action in our nation. The fact that after the Capitol was ransacked, elected officials still voted to reject electoral college votes despite no evidence of widespread voter fraud. We may shake our head in disgust or in disbelief, but it's not enough. And it doesn't count. What counts and what matters is what we do. We are the generation that follows Moses, a man who had every reason not to lead, including the fact that he had a speech impediment. But he's not remembered for why he couldn't. He's remembered He's also not remembered for what his revelatory moments were like. Because those revelatory moments, those are his own internal moments. What he is remembered for is that against all odds, he stood up and he fought for a world as it ought to be. And did not just shake his head in disgust and in disbelief at the government he had so closely grown up in. On this Shabbat, I'm inviting all of us to just slow down. Slow down enough to be able to see this moment, to be able to see the bush as it burns, and listen to what is going on within inside of you. And then lurch forward with your emotions as your fuel to enact a meaningful and a significant change in your world. It's written in the Talmud, in Avodah Zarah 18a, that, quote, "There are those that acquire eternity after many years, and there are others who achieve it in a single moment." From Moses, his moment came when he slowed down enough to realize what he was called here to do and then acted on it. And perhaps this is our moment right now. Can you hear Ratzon?
By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. If we only have love, then tomorrow will dawn, and the days of our years will rise on that morn. If we only have love, we can melt all the guns and then give the new world to our daughters and sons. If we only have love, with our arms open wide, and the young and the old will stand at our side. If we only have love, love that's falling like rain, and the parched desert earth will grow green again. If we only have love for the hymn that we shout, for the song that we sing, then we'll have our way out. And with nothing at all but the little we are, we'll have come conquered all time, all space, the sun and the stars.
We now reach the point in our service where we move to Kaddish, where we remember those who have been lost in our community. We remember those who have passed away in the last 30 days. Doris Fingerhood, Arlene Shapiro-Wyseth, Philip Greenberg, Dr. Walter Schwartz, Michael Barnes, Adam David Emanu-El, Hanan David, Karen Friedman, John Morris Greenberg, Thomas Langsdorff, Alessandra Beck, Ellen Garner, Joseph Pell, Richard Rosen, Anna Rose King, and Dr. Henry Landau. We also remember those whose yahrzeit, whose passing falls on this Shabbat. Selma Altschuler, Aaron Berman, Marjorie Bissinger, Max Borer, Alan Buder, Ronald Cape, Irving Nathan Croman, Marjorie Colvin, Isidore Diamond, Helen Diller, Selma Dorman, Maddie Duckler, Lillian Fenig, Nika Cohn-Fleissig, Helene J. Fried, Samuel M. Friedman, Joseph Futernick, Paul Gent, Harold Groner, Barney Hecht, Etta Hurst, Seymour J. Hootkins, Rosalind James Immersheim, Alan Kaufman, Gertrude Kern, Ilya Kefetz, Harold Laxer, Harry J. Levin, Nathan Levine, Atilia Livshitz, Robert A. Lowe, Ruth Rosenbluth-Lusk, Beatrice I. Lyons, Flora Marcus, Alice Mayer, Teresa Merck, Walter Munzer, Alan Moshkin, Clara Rosenscheld Newman, Eleanor Phillips, Jean Reichert, Beatrice Rubin, Kevin Rubin, Solomon Sandberg, Jeffrey Sampson, William Edward Schulte, Jason Siegel, Ruth Shire, Lita Silver, David Silverman, Pearl Slayan, Harold Stein, Louis Cirrus, Isaac Tabakin, Jeanette Thames, Sidney Tuckman, Zoya Vestal, David W. Walsh, Estelle Winroth, Herbert Yanowitz, Zvi Harry Zaretsky, Ida Zisman, and Rabbi Irving F. Reichert, who served this congregation from 1930 to 1948. If you are following along, we are on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yaman tivrach ratei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agalahu v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach le'olam omei amaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran v'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all of Israel, to all of America, and to all the world. And let us all say amen.
Amen.
It is my honor tonight to invite in our own Rabbi Asher's son, Rabbi Asher. Rabbi Asher, who was a rabbi at this congregation, even when I came as an intern, his wife Faye, Rabbi Asher's mother, I remember her. She would always sit in the Martin Meyer, and I always get a big smile and a big hug whenever I would see her. And just yesterday, it turns out that I share a birthday with Rabbi Asher. It would have been his 100th birthday yesterday. And it's fitting because he spent a lot of his life engaging in trying to make this country a better place and trying to unify this country and really delving into the civil rights issues, which were lacking, and trying to get us closer to where we are. So I'd like to hand it over to his son, Rabbi Asher.
Happy birthday, Rabbi Bauer.
Thank you.
My friends, my father came to San Francisco in 1968 after 10 momentous years in Greensboro, North Carolina. There with the sit-ins at Woolworth's in 1960, he saw the civil rights movement come to a head. And with capture and trial of Eichmann, he, as a German Jewish refugee, helped the Jewish community come to terms with a sharpened consciousness about the Holocaust. He took the pulpit at Emanu-El, San Francisco, in the weeks following Bobby Kennedy's assassination. In an anti-establishment era, he was a proud defender of establishment Judaism. And through the Yom Kippur War and Sabra and Shatila, he was able to instill pride in Israel, as well as point out the excesses of the Likud government. As many of you know, Fred Rosenbaum's book on Emanu-El, Architects of Reform and Visions of Reform, brilliantly chronicle how Dad walked this tightrope. He often did so with great style and elegance, befitting this institution and befitting his understanding of Reform Judaism. Please join me for the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hilchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. And thank you, Rabbi Asher. I love having you here. And I think of your mother often. I miss seeing her.
Thank you very much.
And so as we close, I'm going to invite everyone. Hopefully you've already had your wine now. If not, pour another glass. But as you're pouring another glass, if you could pull out your challah to join us in Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. I want to wish everyone a good Shabbos. Rabbi Bauer, do you have any announcements?
I wish I had Rabbi Jonathan here. I guarantee he has announcements because I have none right now.
Yeah, he'll probably let you know what those announcements would
I'm
have
sure
been.
he will. I will. Make sure you check out our website, and that'll be our announcements.
So if you're watching us from home, if you're with anybody sitting next to you, this is a great time to put your arm around that person. And please know during this time of COVID, if you're watching by yourself, We are your family too. We are with you. We see you and we feel you. We feel you through these Ethernet waves as we sing together this prayer for peace. Oh, say shalom dimroma. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Shalom nimromar, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. Hey, la 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 la. La 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 la. Oh, ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Oh, say shalom nimroma. Oh, ya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for lifting us up here tonight, Cantor Luck. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi Bauer, for lifting us up.